This was just a job posting that you found to be particularly noteworthy.
Yeah, it was someone DM me on Twitter.
Yeah, so
Show
Blizzard
this.
recently posted a new career site thing for a business performance lead as a part of the WoW team, and that position has since been filled. Some of the objectives and competencies, though, were interesting. They certainly got you thinking, Matt.
Yes.
So as for the what, does it, some of the questions we're thinking of, does this mean that they're going further down the monetization and data-driven design route, really trying to squeeze out that performance? Could it mean that they want to invest a lot more in genuine player retention? Are they maybe trying to better understand why are players leaving? Maybe it's like somebody to lead how we read our numbers, because we read our numbers and they're leading us astray. We don't know why this is happening. So let's try to build up the team to sort of interpret our player behavior. Maybe a bit of both.
Reading this job description was a absolute experience, because it especially comes after having all of this stuff, thinking about, how they read data, and this isn't even just from the perspective of World of Warcraft, but as a perspective of video games in general, especially AAA, especially MMO stuff, where it's very much just, it's all data driven. Data science leads everything. And that completely removes, if you focus on numbers, you don't focus on the experience. And that's something we do here very much when it comes to YouTube analytics. You can look at numbers and read them completely blind and go, oh, well, green arrow, everything, that must have been it. But the point is reading it and understanding everything and kind of going, okay, well, why is this number? Not just, no one ever asks how is the number or why is the number. That's kind of the feel. So looking at this, I'm not Scottish. We're from Northern Ireland here. So there you go, Tim. Sometimes similar in how we speak, but anyway. The first part is that the objective stuff is like, become a core member of the cross-discipline live service pod, including business design production, that informs the live events calendar to drive engagement and retention. Oh yeah, this is specifically for the World of Warcraft team, by the way. So it's like the cross-discipline live service stuff is like specifically a pod for World of Warcraft. So yeah, inform the live events calendar to drive engagement and retention, which live events calendar, I assume that's releasing stuff. I don't know if it's actual in-game events calendar. I can't imagine it is. But anyway, develop the live content strategy to drive increased. And this is where, data analysts do ask themselves the questions when analyzing the data as part of the process. But it certainly seems like very data-driven stuff can lose out in the player experience. And that's what we think happens at the team. But, here's the thing. They are developing a strategy to drive increased near-term engagement and medium-term retention. And obviously my first thought is, we'll get into a little bit more, but obviously the first thought was, that's not what you want. You don't want near-term engagement. You don't want medium-term retention. You want long-term retention. And I think there's a lot of strategy in the industry that pushes for one instead of the other. And that's where you run into problems. And then obviously they go into the approach. It's a data-driven approach, collaborate with design and production to identify and implement features that promote retention for different segments of the player base. That's exciting because it's different segments of the player base and also promoting retention. But it's if that's medium-term retention, what is medium-term? So obviously, people in the industry will have a no. I don't really know if that's a year or 2 years or if that's longer or shorter. Is short-term retention come back in the next day, the next week? Is medium-term retention just them saying, 6 month subs, please? Have someone feel engaged once every 6 months. And then we'll throw a mount on them. Because I think that's the big fear I generally have with this. The next point then for objectives is, and this is literally what they're supposed to do, establish goals and KPIs to track engagement and retention. And that's the thing where goals, sure, that's fine. KPIs, sure, the key points of interest, that's perfectly fine. But, key points of interest, I'm thinking POI, key performance indicators. That's monitor and escalate potential issues and share performance data with development, publishing, and commercial leadership. And obviously, that's kind of, again, you can look at this, but KPIs for engagement and retention, are they more likely to be cases of A, 6 months sub, please. Come back in for a week. Come back in for a year. How many MAUs do we have? How many people finish this content? What's our daily active users? What's our monthly active users? What's our weekly active users? Obviously, they're going to have more stuff than that, but is it going to be there? Is it just going to be the blind numbers that we clearly think they operate on? Because obviously this isn't, we're not just assuming the worst. We're thinking about how they operate historically. We're thinking about how they've worked on Korthia stuff. How they just go, oh, daily, come in for your dailies. Without seemingly really thinking too much about them. That's the really awkward part. And then to go on, it's, this is one of the parts that really excited me the most because, this is... I imagine they have people who talk about this internally, but one of the things that is a problem with, I think, a lot of these corporations is, generally speaking, they over-leverage people. So as an example, I'm assuming this is going to be a new business performance lead, and they aren't filling a role that's departed. That's a possibility. But the idea that someone's role is now to understand the behaviors and motivations that lead player to continue or stop playing. I think that's really desperately important for them to have someone in a lead position there, and then they can go, okay, I have this data, I have this analysis, I have this report, time to bring it to Ian. Time to bring it to, John Hight's he's been promoted upwards, I think. But here's the executive producer and the director. Hello, here is the document saying why the fuck everyone stopped playing the game, and that's one of the objectives. And assuming they don't already have that, otherwise they'd make different fucking decisions. But if they had that, then great. This is the good stuff. But again, it's all this engagement and retention, and I'm thinking 1 month, I'm thinking 2 months, I'm thinking 6 month subs. I'm not thinking, is this person, the business performance lead, going to be, I will fucking build you a game that will last for 10 years. Is that what they're thinking or not?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and a role like that, it's not necessarily bad. Because if you look at all of our videos, and you're like, okay, we're going to hyper-optimize on this one for short-term results, I could do one thing. Yeah. Somebody with the very same job description could look at everything we do and say, okay, well, short-term these work, but I really think you should sprinkle in these things for the long-term.
Yeah, and like I was talking, when you were gone, I was talking about how we have those discussions. We do go, well, what's short-term, what's long-term?
Yeah.
What is, what do these numbers mean? Not just, numbers up, yay. It's numbers up, yay, why? Why? Can we learn from this? Oh, numbers down. Oh, what did we do wrong there? Did we market that wrong? Was that a poorly decided or a poorly decided bit of content? Did we do something wrong in its execution? All that stuff goes through our heads, like it should be with them. But I guess it's the long term and the short term stuff, and I feel like it's just short term. Although there is the last part of this really excited me to see. Monitor the competitive landscape, bringing forward novel approaches and best practices. And I feel like I'm assuming they filled this pretty quick, so I don't know if it was maybe a thing they posted and was filled immediately, or posted it accidentally or something and removed it. But the idea of someone going, what's everyone else doing from a business performance perspective as opposed to a game design perspective, to go, listen, this is what they're doing for engagement. They're not squeezing players to the pips. They're giving players room to breathe, and that appears to be working everywhere except, no, this is working everywhere, we're not doing it. That's a key differentiator between us and our competition that's scuffing us. And also bringing novel approaches as well is a good idea, which is all the kind of stuff that, it leads into the competencies, and the lack of user and player design consideration that they're asking for in competencies is why I lean this very, very much over to the side of, I think this is short-term focused. I think this is data analysis versus player experience analysis focused. Obviously, they might have different rules, and they're supposed to, like, they have user experience teams to interact. I think I know which one can go to the boss and go, sheet of green numbers, do this instead. I think that's the fear here, but, it's passion for the business, of course. Deep knowledge of the key performance metrics that drive game performance. That's fine. But if you can't, use those in a hyper qualitative manner, if you just go, oh, number up, yay, that's it, job done, as opposed to number up, now what next?
Yeah. Then you'll fall for your own bing bing wahoos.
Yeah,
You don't want to do that.
That's basically the problem. And it's just all this stuff of, here's, live ops performance, monetization design, product management, fine, sure, whatever. Business intelligence, data visualization, project management tools, that's all fine.
Cool.
But, where's the...
Using Confluence? Feel bad for you?
Yeah, where's the... Please come into this with a deep understanding of why players love to play MMORPGs more than they do other types of games. What makes that really special? What makes that very unique? And, what's gone wrong with it? What's gone right with it? Stuff like that. Would you have an interest in, as an example, player psychology? So you can cross-discipline apply these. Because I think that's one thing that... You know what? This is wild. I was literally thinking this today. And this is... I don't know why I thought this. But I was walking into... I was about to say school. I was walking into work today thinking about how school works for people. Or if asked how school... It is how fucking boring I am, by the way. But, yeah, it's like, so, how does school work for making people vaguely competent for life? And I was thinking about, how everyone at school was like, well, why am I learning this boring shit? Someone who's in chemistry, but they didn't want to learn chemistry. Someone who's in physics, but they wanted to be in, I guess, business studies or, PE. I don't know, PE is a bad example, but, people who like geography, but not physics, that kind of stuff. Why do you need to learn it all? And it's just the idea of you need a core competency to understand other things individually. So, having having someone who's an exceptional, someone who's an exceptional understanding of physics, and then someone who's trying to lift a heavy box, and they talk to each other every now and again, isn't as good as the person who's trying to lift a heavy box having an understanding of physics.
Oh yeah, they'll understand they'll understand all of the fundamental logic that underpins how important it is to have a good form and the biomechanics and stuff. Yeah,
they'll be able to walk into the heavy box and go, I understand. Oh, I'll get a lever to lift this, or I can throw together a winch with a bit of rope.
Yeah,
stuff like that. And that's a thing where if they have user experience person, data sciences person, then you're likely to have a better experience or a better person if they understand both. The polymath approach to life, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
yep.
I guess this sort of thing. Big businesses have to have them. Live games have to have them. They can be for good. They can be for bad. So let's hope it ends up being for good.